Okay, welcome back to lecture 4.5. This is the last last clip of lecture 4, in which we're going to talk about the work, the network in a closed loop. Okay, let me tell you what I mean by that. So, or another way to think about it, maybe what we'll call this one is the work depends on path. We'll just make it very clear. This is the concept that we're thinking about here, is that the work depends on the path. Okay, so I'm going to go back and think again about this ideal gas and the piston, and let's draw a PV diagram where we imagine starting at state 1, okay, and the first thing we're going to do is do an isothermal. Is this compression or expansion? It's compression because we start at V1, go to V2. This pressure is going to be P1, and this pressure is going to be P2. Okay? So, I'm going to leave this and I'm going to think about what's the work done when we go from 1 to 2. Well, we've already done this, right? This is an isotherm, so it was minus nRT log V2 over V1. Okay? And that was the area under this curve. Now, what happens if instead we add another point? What if we add another state? Okay? And what if we go from 1 to 3, and then from 3 to 2? Okay, that was meant to be straight up and down. So what if we do 1 to 3 to 2? Well, you can see in this PV diagram, it's really nice and clear that really these things are areas under the curve. It's kind of geometric, and we can obviously break them up into individual chunks. So I can say that the work from 1 to 3 is really the work from 1 to 3 to 2 is the same as the work from 1 to 3 plus the work from 3 to 2, right? So now I just need to do these individually. What's the work from 1 to 3? Well, the work from 1 to 3 is the integral from 1 to 3 of P dV minus the integral from 3 to 2 of P dV. All right, and you can see that this one, when we do the, what's this called? Isobaric, right? So when we do the isobaric process, the pressure comes out, and actually that's now really P1, right? And this state 3 really corresponds to V2, right? So state 3 is V2, so this is V2 minus V1. And here, during this process, dV was 0, so this is 0, right? Okay, so now you realize that the work done from 1 to 2, if I do this compression, this is greater than the work done from 1 to 3 to 2. That is, I can get to the same exact state two different ways or many different ways, right? I could add state 4, and I could go up, and I could go over, right? I could take numerous paths to get still from state 1 and end in state 2, and they're all going to have different amounts of work that you have to do, right? So does this violate conservation of energy? I mean, it took a different amount of work, and work is energy, right? The answer is no, because these are not fixed systems, right? I have this bath, I have the surroundings, and I'm exchanging heat with them, right? So here it was an isothermal process, but here, when I went down in pressure, I was compressing at a constant pressure. But here you can see even in this isochore, right? So to go up in pressure at a constant volume, I clearly had to raise the temperature quite a bit, right? So I was dumping in energy there, and so I'll have the same amount of energy total, or maybe even less. Well, this was a perfect frictionless system, so the energy should be conserved. But the work, the mechanical part, is different, okay? And now we see, since they're different, we can even do things like, well, this one would have taken even more work, this one takes less work. So you think, oh, why don't I always go this way, never go that way? Well, there may be a situation where, for example, you want to start at 1, move to 2, and come back to 1, right? So if you look here, so imagine that I go from 1, and now I go, I don't know what that one is. So if I go from 1 to 2, down to 3, and then 3 to 1, okay? So what if I go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 3 to 1, right? Well, we actually have all the components we need to do that. So we have 1 to 2. So that would be, again, minus nRT log V2 minus V1. From 2 to 3 is 0, right? Because dV was 0. And now we go from 3 to 1, and that's really just the opposite of 1 to 3, right? So that's going to give me up a plus P1 V2 minus V1. Or minus, right, V1 minus V2. But that's the same. But that is a plus. Okay, so now graphically, what does the work look like? Right? Well, we had all of this area under the curve, but then we subtracted that part off. So now the net work done is this part. So the question is this work positive or negative? Well, you could see we had to do more work to compress it, and we got less work back out of it when we expanded the system. So this work was positive, meaning we did work on our system. You can imagine reversing the cycle, go 1 to 3 to 2, and expand it along your isotherm from 2 to 1. And if you do that, you actually would get work out of your system. It would be negative, right? And you would get work out of the system. Now, this is like the beginnings of an engine, right? Somehow you got work out of your system. Well, you had to get your work out of your system, for example, here, by increasing the temperature. So energy had to go in to increase that temperature, but you got work out of it if you went that way. So remember the work. So let's see. So work on ended up being counterclockwise. And work by and it being clockwise. So we can get, so another take-home message here, a very important point, something to really reiterate, is that the work depends not only on your thermodynamic variables, but also on the path. Okay? So that's a key feature. Depends on the path you take to get there. So another way to say that it doesn't only depend on the thermodynamic variables is to say work is not a state function. That is, the definition there, that what that means is it does not only depend on the state you're in, right? The work depends on how you get there, not just the state you're at. You're going to have done work very many different ways to get to the same state. Okay, so that's wrapping up lecture 4.5. We're going to move on to lecture 5, where we're still in chapter 2, but I want to point out one thing that helps us set up for lecture 5, which is that during 2 of these processes, the isobar and isocore, it wasn't very important that we knew our equation of state, right? Here, because the pressure was constant, it could come out and it was a simple integral. Here the dV was 0, so it was 0. But here we really needed to know our equation of state, right? So to move along a process, we need to know our equation of state. And we have an equation of state for our ideal gas, right? PV equals nRT. But we would like to have an equation of state for a generic three-dimensional solid or liquid, right? So that's what we're going to derive next time. We're going to derive the generic three-dimensional equation of state for a solid or liquid.